Idalia is now expected to become a major Category 3 hurricane, and it's turning into a hurricane right about now for us here as storm surge and flooding is expected to become extreme, where inundation could get to life-threatening levels for us here, and the chances for tornadoes and flooding will also increase in bands. I've got all the information on that in this video. Let's go ahead and hop on over and look at Monday evening's cone and the latest alerts and warnings. You can see anywhere in the red, that's where you've got a hurricane warning. That includes far western Cuba, as well as the Big Bend region of Florida for us there on the Nature Coast. That's where we're looking at the best chance for the hurricane conditions to arise, and this is why the chance for hurricane force sustained winds, so you're talking of sustained winds of 75 plus miles per hour with even higher gusts. There's a 50-50 shot at this hitting the coast for us there, so this is going to include some of the areas around Cedar Key. And I just want to point out, even as you head into some of these inland areas towards Lake City, there's still a good 20 to 30% chance that you see sustained winds of hurricane force. But remember, right towards the coast, that's where we could see some of the gusts, especially get up to major hurricane force. But look at this, the chance of tropical storm force winds is pretty much 100% for you there in that light pink, reddish color for us there hitting the coastline. But look, all the way from places like Tampa, the way this landfall is coming in with it grazing the coast before making it on up into the Big Bend, that is allowing for this to pretty much graze tropical storm force to even lower end hurricane force winds all the way from places like Tampa northward from there. So let's play this out for us here. Here we go towards 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the 29th, so this is as we go into your Tuesday, and I'm playing this out for you right now. You can see that storm really beginning to intensify as it pushes on over, basically directly west of the Miami area, but of course well over the Gulf, and Miami not really seeing any impacts from this. That's just for reference for us here. You can see some of those strong bands may be capable of some tornadoes pushing northward into portions of Georgia and Alabama as the evening goes on, but look at how this eye wall really begins to feed some of that moisture into Florida, and just look at how intense that eye wall looks. This is definitely Category 3 caliber storm that the NAM model is picking up on by this point. So remember, this is rapid intensification likely being undergone for us here over the course of the next several hours. And then as we go into your August 30th, so now you're talking Wednesday morning, landfall is likely going to be imminent sometime between midnight Tuesday night and midday on Wednesday, probably closer to that noon time frame on Wednesday on that side of that time frame that I just mentioned. But again, this is Category 3 to 4 system likely making landfall for us here. Let's zoom in on the 5 a.m. time frame again and give you some of these locations. We got Cedar Key. We've got some of these areas just south of Apalachicola. We're looking at this for you now. The NAM model shows us further west. If you look at many other models, it's a little bit east, but basically that line I just drew out, the furthest east location is what's on the right, and the furthest west is what's on the left. Only a couple hundred miles in between, but nonetheless, this is going to be a very damaging eye wall. We could see some intense impacts on the western eye wall, but overall, the heaviest and most expansive widespread rain is going to be over on the east side, as well as the potential for extremely damaging storm surge, as well as gusty winds. And remember, we're talking life-threatening storm surge inundation beginning over the course of the next 12 hours as this wind pushes northward. Here's the NAM model. You can see some of these wind gusts in the lighter pink shade grazing the western coast of Florida from Bradenton all the way on back down towards the Naples area. You're talking about those spots for us there. These areas, all these locations have the chance for some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts to get going. Again, and this is just talking about over the course of the next little while. So again, 12 to 24 hours out, we've already got breezy conditions setting in. Then notice most of southern Florida for us here gets in on some 30 to 40 miles per hour gusts in that area I just circled. So even if you're in Miami and you might not get much rain or any rain out of this, you're talking about at least the chance for some of the windy conditions to set on in at times for us out of the south. You'll definitely notice that breeze. And whoa, I just went way past what I should have on this. Let's bring this back and show you that landfall time frame of the winds, and you can see clearly right there those winds pushing on shore. Again, in those deeper colors, that's where you're talking about winds sustained of at least 68 miles per hour plus for us here. And again, this is pretty much the max that this model can show, so just showing you that if models are maxing out, you're definitely talking about extreme conditions developing. Tropical storm force winds are ready to move up the Florida coast, so you need to be ready for that. Let's talk about the timing of this. By the time you're waking up on your Tuesday morning, you could see tropical storm force winds along Florida's west coast and the from the Keys into the far southwestern coast of Florida. Places like Tampa will see the earliest onset of these tropical storm force winds around the middle of the afternoon time frame on Tuesday, and then pretty much the rest of the Big Bend region begins to see these tropical storm force winds and hurricane force winds set on into the evening hours. Storm surge warnings are posted. That's what's in the blue for you here. So from places like Tampa, just south of town, as well into Bradenton and Sarasota, all the way on over, curling up and around for us there into Apalachicola. That's where we have this storm surge warning. But also notice how with one of the rivers we get there just east of Tallahassee, we have all the way on up to the Georgia border. That's where we have a storm surge warning for you there. And then here are the other alerts that relate to this storm. You can see our hurricane watch for you there in the light pink, but our hurricane warning is right there along the coast. Again, pretty much where the storm surge warning was. We've also got tropical storm warnings that, yes, go all the way eastward into your theme parks there in Orlando. I know theme parks aren't really important right now with lives on the line, but nonetheless, if you're there, probably not going to be the best time to be there, that's for sure. And then tropical storm watch goes up the I-95 corridor for us there. So through places like Savannah, Georgia, and all the way on up into Charleston, South Carolina, we're already beginning to see the likelihood of tropical storm force conditions to develop over the longer term time frame for us here. And that is why those tropical storm watches have already been issued. We could see some wind gusts there, upwards of 50, 60 miles per hour, as this storm kind of taps into some of the Atlantic moisture, pulls that in, as well as just some of the remnant wind energy it'll be pulling along as a front interacts with it. Now, tornadoes will be spawned by the eastern bands of this, from places like Gainesville down to Orlando, all the way down to Fort Myers. We've got the chance for a really elevated chance of some tornadoes to develop for the day tomorrow, all the way on over to the Jacksonville and eastern coast for us. They're the Space Coast region. That's where we're also looking at the chance for a couple of tornadoes as well. The flood risk has increased as I expected yesterday. Several inches of rain will fall, and you can see where that corridor is expected to be. Right on the Big Bend region in Cedar Key, going on over towards far southeastern Georgia in the Valdosta region. This goes to Savannah. This goes to Charleston, South Carolina. This goes to Myrtle Beach, and then all the way on up to Wilmington and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. That's where the best flood threat is. But we also have a level 2 flood threat back over up towards Appalachia, where we're going to be getting some heavy rain associated with the front that's going to be pushing this away. Again, notice how really this is going to be speeding up, and then it eventually starts slowing down as it moves into the Carolinas. So what this means is very heavy rain, of course, right where the eye wall makes landfall, so places just east of Tallahassee could be seeing in totals 6 to 10 inches of rain. But even as you go into the Carolinas, once it begins slowing down again, it spreads up, becomes more massive. Places in the Myrtle Beach area, some of these popular tourist destinations there, could be seeing again an additional 6 to 10 inches of rain in those locations as well, on top of maybe what you get a little bit with some thunderstorms ahead of this. So let's talk about the key message for Idalia. There is a danger of life-threatening storm surge inundation along portions of the Florida Gulf Coast where a storm surge warning is in effect, including Tampa Bay and the Big Bend region of Florida. Inundation of 8 to 12 feet above ground level is expected somewhere between Chassahowitzka as well as Osceola River for us there. Residents in these areas should follow any advice given by local officials. Keep that in mind. Hurricane conditions are expected within portions of the hurricane warning area along the Florida Gulf Coast, so keep that in mind as well. Areas of flash and urban flooding, some of which may be locally significant, are expected across portions of the west coast of Florida, the Florida Panhandle, and southern Georgia. So pretty much let's talk about it like this. If you're on the east coast of Florida, yes, watch out for the tornado impacts, maybe a little bit of surge up towards Jacksonville. If you're on the west coast of Florida as well as the Florida Panhandle, be ready for the worst with this system. And hurricane force winds are expected across portions of the far western areas of Cuba tonight, of course, so this is also ongoing. The impacts to Cuba are now ending. This is shifting towards the United States at this point, and you have less than 36 hours to prepare for the most dangerous conditions to set in, and really less than 12 to 24 hours if you live right in the southwestern coast of Florida. By the way, I'm filming this on your Monday evening, so keep this in mind of when the dates are for us as I speak. Here are the credits, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe.